Hi everyone, welcome to How to Retape Your Flag. First, we're going to start by stripping everything off the flag. So we're taking off all the pieces of tape, we're taking off the silk, we're taking off the end caps, and you'll find tape holding each end cap onto the pole. You'll find that the end caps themselves are covered in tape. You'll find tape holding the silk on at both ends. And you'll also find cheater tapes either on top of or underneath the tape that is on the pole itself. And the tape that's on the pole itself is going to go from the bottom all the way over until about an inch or two under the silk. All right, we've totally stripped our flag. We should have a completely bare flagpole. We should have two completely bare end caps, no tape anywhere on the outside or the inside. You should have two bolts, one big, one small. You should have your silk. Our first step is going to be to recover the exposed part of the pole. Especially if you have an older pole, that part may still be really sticky. But what we're going to do is we're going to take our tape. You should use tape that matches or very closely coordinates with the color of your silk. So for some of you that may be blue, for some of you that may be black, or if you're using a completely different silk, it may be another color. So we're going to take the tape, and on the bottom half of the pole, so the part that was already exposed and covered in tape previously, we're going to take our tape, put it on there with just a little bit hanging over the edge so that we can tuck it into the open end of the flagpole. Then we're going to roll the tape all the way down the flag. It should be relatively straight, but doesn't have to be perfect. You're going to roll it all the way down to right about where the stickiness ends, maybe an inch or two above. Cut it. Smooth the rest of it down. Now rinse and repeat until you've covered the entire bottom half of this pole. And when you're doing your second, third, and fourth rounds of tape, they should line up pretty closely. We don't want them to overlap too much. We also don't want any gaps in between the two pieces of tape, but it's okay if there's a little bit of overlap in some spots. All right, we should have a nice fully covered bottom half of our pole, relatively smooth, little to no gaps in between the tape, little to no overlap, except that last piece of tape may overlap a little bit, and that's totally fine. Our next step is going to be to put our cheater tapes on. Cheater tapes help with hand placement. and we're going to be putting 2 on. A bottom one, closer to the bottom half of the pole, and a top one that's going to be closer to the silk once we put the silk back on. Take your measuring tape, and from the bottom of the flagpole, measure 10 inches. Just kind of hold your finger at that 10-inch mark. Put your tape measure down. Pick up your tape that's the same color as the tape that's already on the flagpole. And put it on the side of your finger that is closer to the uncovered part of the pole. So for me, that's on this side of my finger, not this side, this side. Once you've stuck your tape at that 10-inch mark, you're going to take it and wrap it around the pole on top of itself at least 3 or 4 times. And then when you're done, cut the tape and smooth it out. So your cheat tape is going to be hard for the audience to see, but it's easy for you to see up close. And it's also easy for you to feel when you grip the pole, because there should be a decent bump there if you've wrapped the tape around 2 or 3 times. Now we're going to do our top cheat tape closer to the silk. You're going to take your tape measure again, measure from the bottom of the pole, and mark off 26 inches. Put your finger there, put your tape measure down, pick up your tape, and same deal. It should go on the side of your finger closer to the silk. So this side, not this side, this side. Stick it on there. And same deal, wrap the tape around the flag at least 3 or 4 times until there is a decent size bump there. And when you're done, cut the tape, smooth it down, and there you have your 2 cheat tapes. Got your bottom and your top. They're for you to see and feel. We shouldn't allow the audience to see these by making them a different color, because the audience doesn't need to know the secrets to perfection. Next, we're going to tape our silk back on. So if you take your silk and hold it by the part where the flagpole goes in, stand up and take a peek. There's going to be one end that's longer than the other. You can see on this one, this end is a little bit longer and it kind of curves down. This end is a little bit shorter and doesn't curve down quite as much. We want the shorter end, so on my silk, it's this end. We want this short end to go at the top of the flagpole. So we'll put it on long side first. Just slide it right onto that pole. Now, take a peek at the very top part of your silk. Put your pointer finger right up against the edge of the top of your flagpole, and place that top part of the silk right up against that pointer finger. So it should be about 1/2 inch or 1 pointer finger's length away from the top of the pole. Hold it here and we're going to tape it down. For me, I'm using the black tape because this top part of my silk right here is black. I want my tape, if it's going to be visible, to match the part of the silk it's right next to. Because I have a multicolored silk, I need to use more than one color of tape. All right, so take your tape and your silk, hold it 1 pinky finger's width away from the top of the pole, and put some tape right at the edge of the silk so that the tape is mostly on the silk, but there's a little bit on the pole. Wrap it around maybe twice, and then go all the way up to the end of the pole. Wrap it around another 2 times maybe. Cut it out, smooth it down. Next, we're going to take the bottom part of the silk. And if you can see, there's a seam running all the way down the silk to create that hole for the pole to go into the silk. We want that seam to be straight all the way down, because if we get it kind of twisted part way, the silk looks weird, bad things happen, we don't want that. So the easiest thing to do is hold your silk horizontally, set it up so that the silk that's taped down at the very top part has the seam facing down, and then run your hand all the way down the silk to get that seam lined up, and then hold it there. We're going to take our tape again. For me, I have to switch to blue tape because my pole is blue and my top is black. We're going to take our tape and tape the bottom part of the silk down the exact same way. There you go. Now your silk is attached to your pole. All right, now it's time to tape our end caps. I'm going to be using 2 different colors because the top of my silk is black and the bottom of my silk is blue. Depending on your flag, you may need to just use 1 color, or you may need to use 2 colors, as long as the end caps coordinate with the part of the flag that they're placed on. So to start, I'm going to take 1 end cap. I'm going to place the tape along the side, going up and down so that there's a little bit extra. I'm going to take that extra, push it into the end cap. Then I'm going to take the tape, pull it tight, place it down on one side of the end cap, smooth it down, pull it out over the top, smooth it down, pull it over the other side of the end cap, smooth it down, pull it out, cut it so that there's a little bit extra. Take that extra, tuck it into the end cap, and just kind of squish it all over so it smooths down as much as possible. There are going to be a couple little bumps here and there, but overall you should be able to get it pretty smooth. Then I'm going to take the tape, rinse and repeat until the entire end cap is covered. So I'll line it up with the tape that's already on there. Put a little extra inside the end cap. And lining it up with the tape that's already there. And then letting it cross over to make a little X. Lining it up with the tape on the other side so that there's no space in between them. It's okay to try multiple times until you get it right. Smooth it down. Cut it off, leave a little extra. Tuck it in. Depending on the end cap, you may need to do this for a total of 3 pieces of tape, a total of 4. Kind of varies depending on the size. So it looks like for me, I'm going to have to do 4. Up over the top and down. See, I just have this little bit left on either side, so I'm going to do one more pass over with the tape to cover both of these spots. And then I'm going to do the exact same thing in blue tape with the other end cap. And now we should have 2 fully covered end caps with a little bit of tape on the inside of both. Next, we're going to put our bolts in our end caps. You should have a 4-inch carriage bolt and a 3-inch carriage bolt. These are both 3/8 of an inch thick, so they're a little lighter than a bolt like this. This is also 4 inches, but it's 1/2 inch thick. So you can see it looks quite a bit beefier. These thick ones are good for silks that have a lot of seams in them. So if you have a lot of different fabrics stitched together, you'll want a heavier bolt like this. Or if you'll be spinning in very windy conditions, you'll want a heavier bolt. These lighter bolts are good for silks that don't have a lot of seams in them. Very light, all one material. They may be screen printed. These are also good for folks who are new to color guard or are simply new to weighted poles. You don't want to start out with too heavy of a bolt. That can cause injuries. It's kind of like weightlifting. If you lift too heavy of a weight too quickly, you're probably going to hurt yourself. So we're starting off with these that are a little bit lighter just to build everyone's muscles up, and then we'll graduate to these big guys in the spring. If you have a 1/2 inch thick bolt, these big thick guys that we'll be using in the spring, they usually fit right into an end cap without doing anything extra. They don't wiggle around. The end cap doesn't fall off. And they're a bit of a pain to take out too. With the 3/8 inch bolts, they don't stay in the end cap as easily. So what we're going to do is we're going to take some tape. Any color doesn't matter. We're going to put the tape on the head of the bolt. Whoops. Wrap it around once. Now we're going to unroll our tape a little bit more, and we're going to twist it. Twist it until it forms a pretty tight little rope. So you'll have to twist it quite a few times. Once you get to about this point, you're going to take it and wrap it around the head of the bolt. It's not going to stick to the bolt. It might be a little bit tricky to keep where you want it, but that's okay. We are going to tape over this afterwards. Whoops, let's try that again. I'm trying to go around the edge of the head of the bolt as much as possible because that's what we want to build up. But if it goes a little off to the sides, it's all good. Once you've wrapped the head of your bolt, it should have gone around at least 3 or 4 times. Get your tape so that the sticky side is facing the bolt. And finish wrapping it. Just wrap it around another once or twice to keep everything in place. Cut the tape off. And now there's this little hole in the top where there's no tape. I want you to squish it all down. And on the bottom too, squish everything down. Get it nice and tight on the head of the bolt. And when you finish squishing, we're going to wrap the head of the bolt very similar to how we wrapped the end caps. You're going to take your tape, put it on the bolt a little bit under the head, wrap it around the top. Leave a little extra so that it can go underneath all of that tape we just wrapped on top. And tuck it right in there. Now, same thing on this part that isn't covered. Place it on the bolt. Tuck it in over the top. Leave a little bit extra, cut the tape, and tuck it in. Now the head of your bolt should be much bulkier. We're going to test it. We're going to see if it fits in the end cap. You should be able to shake the end cap around, and the end cap should not come off the bolt. If it flies off, what you can do is take the bolt back out and repeat the same process on top of what's already been taped. So wrap it around again, twist the tape, wrap that rope of tape around, continue wrapping one more time to cover that tape rope, and then wrap on top. And that should make the head of your bolt thick enough to stay in your end cap. Next, we're going to wrap the bottom of the bolt. And we wrap this bottom part because when it's in the flagpole, we don't want it to rattle against the metal part of the flagpole and make noise. We don't need our flags to make noise. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our tape, and this is where you can be really just messy and kind of sloppy tape, because we want to build up a little bit of a cushion between the bottom of the bolt and the flagpole, so that if it does happen to hit the flagpole, it doesn't make any noise. So I'm going to do a little bit more twisting, just very loose twist. And then wrap it all up. Cut it off, smooth down. Now when I put my bolt in the flagpole, much less noise. Next, we're going to put our bolts in our end caps. So for me, my black end cap is the top, and my blue end cap is the bottom. We want the heavier weight to go in the top end cap. So your 4-inch bolt is going to be heavier than your 3-inch bolt. I'm going to take my 4-inch bolt and put it in my top end cap. Just kind of squish it in there. You may need to wiggle it a bit. Get it in there so it's straight. Now I'm going to take my flag, put the bolts into the pole, push the end cap on top until you cannot push it down anymore. Now we'll do the same with the bottom bolt and the bottom end cap. This is your 3-inch bolt. Stick it in your bottom end cap, wiggle it around until it's straight. End cap doesn't fall off. Stick your bolt in the bottom end of your flagpole. Push the end cap down until you can't push it down anymore. Now we're going to tape our end caps to our flagpole. The end caps are pretty sturdy. They shouldn't come off with regular use, but I do like to have a little extra insurance policy just to make absolutely sure that they don't fly off and take a 4-inch bolt with them and hit someone in the head. So we're going to take our tape. Again, this tape is visible, so match it to the rest of the pole and the end cap around it. So for me, my bottom end cap is blue, the bottom of my pole is blue. I'm going to take my blue tape, I'm going to start on the end cap with just a little bit down onto the pole. I'm going to wrap it around and slowly spiral down onto the pole. It's okay if it's a little messy. If there are a couple bumps, we're going to smooth it out. You want one nice go around of tape that's totally on the pole. Cut it off, smooth it down. And now let's do the same to the top. So for the top, I'm going to take my black tape to match my black end cap. I'm going to start on the end cap with just a little bit hanging off. Wrap it around. Slowly spiral down onto the pole. And for this, you'll want to take your silk, pinch it at the seam, and hold it up against the pole a little bit, just so it stays out of the way and you don't accidentally tape it down. For this end, we're not going to get an entire round of tape all the way on the pole just because we don't want to accidentally tape the silk down. So I'm going to get as far down as I can before I hit the silk. I hit the seam of the silk where the flag starts coming out from the pole. And then I'm going to get one wrap around as neat and as tight as I can. Press it all down. Cut the tape off and smooth it down. All right, now you have a beautiful, freshly taped flag. Go forth and practice.